The fourth annual meeting of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is underway, and it's taking place, of course, for the first time in Europe and here in Luxembourg. Now, this small EU country was also the first EU member state to join the AIIB, and at the opening ceremony, its president, Jin Li-chun, called it a multilateral development bank with EU characteristics, saying that it's lean, green and clean. And here they also unveiled one of their latest projects, a $100 million loan to create wind and solar power infrastructure projects throughout India. Now, India has, of course, committed itself to reducing its carbon footprint by 30 to 35% of its 2005 levels by 2030 under, of course, the Paris Agreement. But to meet that goal, it needs to increase the share of non-fossil fuels that's in its energy mix. Here's now a little bit of an interview that we did earlier on with Luxembourg's Finance Minister, Pierre Gramegna, at the annual meeting. Take a look.
What is key is, I think, two things. That investment is green and sustainable on the one hand, and that we make sure that we can crowd in private investors and the private sector in general and banks. So the cooperation between multilateral development banks like the AIIB and private finance looking at climate change projects is what we want to achieve here. Luxembourg being an important financial center, obviously we can build that bridge between public and private.
Now, the buzzword here is definitely connectivity, the importance of having a connected world, especially at a time when trade wars and unilateralism are threatening multilateralism. So here, the bank is calling for the pooling of resources, of experience, to have the right kind of governance in place and really find sustainable projects that can combat climate change. And Luxembourg's Prime Minister Xavier Bettel called on members and those possibly thinking of joining to really invest. He said that Luxembourg has always believed in first and engaging in new systems by investing, for example, in steel, going into finance. And here's a little bit of what he said to us.
We speak here today about connectivity. We cannot afford that in our own country you have connected people and parts of the country where you know that you are not connected. So we need to avoid that in future when we speak especially about the 5G and all the artificial intelligence, then some part of your populations are cut from new systems. So these are the digital infrastructure, but we need also education. We need so many different infrastructure. My government invested a lot in infrastructure because I really truly believe that not investing today will be the debt of the next generation tomorrow. So we have to do it.
So that was Luxembourg's Prime Minister there. Now the AIIB annual meeting continues, of course, on Saturday. Myram Zadi, CGTN, Luxembourg.